Welcome to the Get Real Podcast, your high-octane boost of full-on reality therapy for personal, business, and investing success with your host, Ron Phillips, because somebody's got to tell it like it is.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the Get Real Podcast. Ron Phillips here. I want to talk about something that I think is a little controversial today. At least it is in the men's business space, and specifically men. I've actually never really heard any women in the business world have issues with this, but men specifically seem to have trouble with the word humility. And I don't know why. I think that the word humble seems to get a bad rap. Like, humble means weak. To have humility means to be a weak man. And I'll throw another word in the mix too. Vulnerable. Usually when we say the word vulnerable, like if you're talking about an attack, like vulnerable to attack, nobody wants to be vulnerable to attack. But there's strength that comes from both of those words, and that's what I want to talk about today. Now, first off, I wasn't raised that being humble or having humility was a weakness. I was raised just the opposite of that. My parents instilled in us to be humble is actually to be strong. Not to get all churchy, but anybody who out there who is a Christian, I think, one of the main attributes of Christ was that he was humble. But I don't think anybody would ever call him weak. I mean, I certainly wouldn't. I mean, I've read about his life. I don't think weak is a word that you would use to describe him. And I've known a lot of humble leaders who lead with humility in my life. I wouldn't consider any of them weak. So I think there's just a misconception about the word. And the reason I wanted to bring the word vulnerable in today is because I really believe that strength comes through both of these words. And I'm going to try to describe it through an experience that I just had last week. We had one of the mastermind groups that I attend, full of business owners. Funny story. We were all supposed to go hang out in this mansion. Really big house, awesome, like sauna. It was really, really cool, but the weather turned horrible. The city shut the house down. The rest of the for whatever, I still don't know exactly what happened there. But then the city kind of got shut down because of the weather. And it ended up being in my house, which was unique. The guy who runs the group, called me up and we had it at my house. So it was really cool. It was fun to have everybody over at the house, and, maybe we had a more intimate setting, but our group has notoriously been like what I'm going to describe anyway. And what I want everybody out there to understand is that without humility, without vulnerability, there can be no growth in the areas that people can't see. And that is the key, right? We all hide the things that might be embarrassing in business, in life, from everybody around us, and we put on a front. And that front seems like it's strong. It seems like it's impenetrable. It seems to everybody around us like we've got everything together, but inside, it weakens us. The reason that it weakens us, that pride, the ego, is because we're never going to get better at the thing that we've hidden from everybody else. Because we can't get any help about it. And in business, if you hide things, Tell me this, business owner out there or manager or anything, anyone who's been in charge of people. Have you ever hired someone, had somebody work for you who on the surface looks like everything is going so well? I mean, they're just doing a remarkable job. And then 6 months later, after everything has been swept under the rug for so long that the rug is piled so high, people start tripping on all of the debris that's underneath the rug, it comes to light that they really weren't doing a great job. They were actually doing a really crappy job. It just seemed like it on the outside. That's what I'm talking. Had that person humbled themselves, been vulnerable, and asked for help, they probably could have fixed the problem before it got so big and so out of control that it probably got them fired. In my company, it would get you fired. And I'm assuming that in most every other company, it would get the person fired. The real problem comes, though, when you're the owner. Nobody's firing you. But the problem is when you do something like that and it hurts your company, well, people do suffer, because when you hurt your company, when you hurt it financially, when you hurt it legally, when you hurt it in any other way, all of the people who are relying on that business, they're going to get hurt. One way or the other, they're going to get hurt. So this macho thing that is out there in the business world where you cannot let anybody see any cracks, it's prideful folly is what it is. Now, that said, you got to pick your venue. So we just had this mastermind. Unbelievable humility, vulnerable moments from people who a lot of you would know, right? I mean, they're people who you probably look up to. And the really cool thing, I've said it on the show before, but everybody who we all look up to, they're all just people too. Everybody has their issues. Everybody has their things that they're working on, both in business and their personal life and their relationships. All of that. We're all working on something or many somethings. And what strikes me is that as I'm in these mastermind groups, the people who grow the most are the people who share with the group and ask with all humility for help to overcome whatever it is. Whatever it is. So I just encourage you to take a second look. All right, if you've looked up the word humble and it says something about, being a sissy, go look up a different definition. Because there are different definitions out there for that word. And most of the time, what I think you're going to find is strength through growth. And I'm telling you, the people who are not vulnerable, the people who come to those mastermind groups and they beat their chest and they talk about how great they are, they don't grow. A lot of them, months or years later, they have an existential crisis in their business or in their relationships or with their health. And they're too proud to ask for any help. And so they spiral. I've seen it so many different times. Pride is the downfall of men. So you can continue to think that humility is your enemy. You can continue to think that being vulnerable is something that you would never do because someone will attack you. But if you pick the right venue, if you pick the right people, if you pick the right friends, the right mentors, and you humble yourself and you're vulnerable and you tell people, hey, look, I have this problem. Can you help me fix it? I think what you'll find is the same thing I've found. That's where all of the growth happens. Every single ounce of growth happens in that space. And if you're listening to this and you're like, Ron, that sounds great, but I don't have anywhere that's safe enough for me to do that, well, then I encourage you to find that place. Reach out, try to find a mentor, look into mastermind groups. Not all of them are that way. I can tell you from firsthand experience. And one, there's tons of them out there that are just chest thumping, places for people to show off. That's not where you're going to get the help. Where you're going to get the help is where everyone checks their ego at the door and they're literally there to love on you and help you out and help you grow. So this year and every year, get yourself out there, find this place, find these people, surround yourself with them, keep them close, and let's all make ourselves better. Until next week, get out there and make something happen.
This has been the Get Real Podcast. To subscribe and for more information, including a list of all episodes, go to getrealestatesuccess.com.